finger, the pick, and then my thumb. Get sort of a rake sound. Something like that. And for slow picking, mostly downstrokes. If you want to play fast, I would suggest you practice alternate picking, which you alternate between downstrokes and upstrokes. The next kind of picking I want to show you is what it could be called fan picking, and it's kind of a cheap excuse for alternate picking. It's not as clean. It's something I think Eddie Van Halen sort of pioneered, but he does it with his hand above the string. I do it with my hand tucked under the string, and it's usually used just on the first or second string. And this is what it sounds like. Thumb picking, well, you kind of need a long thumbnail to do it, right? But and it's something I got from Hendrix. Hendrix used to do that a lot. Some other picking techniques you can use is one, picking behind your thumb, kind of plucking the string and using your second finger, and then I've kind of tucked my pickup between my first and second finger and play the octave. Sounds something like this. Also, you can tap that with your forefinger or second finger. And using your pick can sometimes be used for a trill effect. So, for instance, so these are all examples of different ways of picking with your right hand using your pick, or picking behind your first finger with your thumb, or tapping it at the octave. And so here's some examples of that. Well, to start off with, a couple of harmonic points that you want to keep in mind are there's a position right over this pickup, and midway in between the neck position, bridge position pickup, where you can get different harmonics when you pick. Also up and down the neck, there's a lot of different places you can get different harmonics. And it's also in the way that you use your left hand. You know, you can get different tones out of it. So I'll just demonstrate that now. And the palm technique is, it sounds like you're playing a real fast run, but actually all you're doing is running the palm of your hand down the length of the string and getting all the harmonics from this point back. So, and it's also used with pulling off with your left hand. So kind of get this kind of thing going here. Muting it with your right hand. I think it's preferable to have a wide vibrato, meaning a lot of movement up and down from your starting point it just sounds better, and slower too, and also be able to have control over it. So you should practice your vibrato as far as how far you stretch it and at what speed. And I think younger players tend to have a faster, narrower vibrato, and more mature players seem to have like a wider, slower vibrato, which is more emotional sounding, and help give you your own style, I think. So I can demonstrate that. I can't demonstrate the fast one because I can't do it anymore, but I can show you the slow one. I think it's important to learn to do it with all fingers, so not just your third finger. So. At the end there, I combine some harmonics with the vibrato. I use my first finger a lot to bend up, catch the note, and then vibrato it by hitting the note that I'm bending up to, and then grabbing it like with the third finger. So, and hitting it once more with a harmonic, preferably. And the other vibrato that I use, which actually I learned before I used my regular vibrato, was kind of a, I guess you call it horizontal vibrato. And I got that from mimicking Jimi Hendrix records and listening to things he did on records, but I didn't really know how he was doing it, so I tried to emulate the sound, and I did that by what's called maybe jack-off vibrato. I don't know. So practice your jacking off. Okay, so here we go. Kind of nervous sounding, but it's more manic, a little wilder. So I mean, you can combine that with the regular technique and give you more stuff to draw from. This is my ESP Tiger Custom, which is kind of a copy of my Kamikaze with a different graphic on it. It's all maple. Maple gets a really bright sound, really sticks out in the track. It's not as warm as, let's say, mahogany, but I like the characteristics of the sound of this wood. I like one-piece bodies, extra thick bodies, seem to get a little bit more sustain. I like very wide necks, 1 3/4 inches at the nut, very large radius, which means that the fingerboard doesn't curve very much, and very high frets, the highest frets I can find, for ease of vibrato. It makes it a little harder to play quickly, but it's better for bending strings. My neck is unfinished. I sand it down. I go through necks quite often, because when you travel a lot with a guitar and it doesn't have a finish on it, tend to warp easily, but it feels better for me. My pickups are Seymour Duncan distortion, wound a little bit differently than a normal distortion. Single coil. I've used a variety of single coils, but this one I think is a Seymour Duncan stagger strat left. I like using a single coil in my solos a lot of times, and I have a push-pull pot that I use. Sometimes I'll start off my solo sweep styles and things like that. I'll use the single coil pickup, and then for something really raunchy and a lot of sustain, I'll flick back to the humbucking, kind of like Hendrix used to do with his toggle switch, but more of a radical approach. I've got it routed out in the back so that I can pull back and do some of that sitar-style barring technique. And some of my guitars have reverse headstocks, which are just purely cosmetic. It doesn't really change the tone or anything like that. It's just for looks. And that's about it. Okay, instead of using your left hand for vibrato, you can use the bar by pulling back on it, sustaining the note, wiggling the note with the bar, and also dipping the bar down and then coming up to the note. So I'll show you examples of that.